I don't always play Counterspells, but when I do, I still don't play blue. Believe it or not, there's actually a small handful of spells that are not in blue, but that can counter your opponent's spells, and are also modern legal. Some might just be oddities, and most are strictly unplayable, but is it possible that a few or even one is hidden tech for this ever-evolving and shifting meta? Let's take a look at 5 of these cards in order of potential playability. Not in blue. 5 modern legal counterspells in red, green, black, and white. Number 5 is Avoid Fate, a card first printed back in Legends, but then reprinted as a time-shifted card during Time Spiral. Time-shifted cards are indeed modern legal, so you can absolutely play with this classic in your modern deck. The problem is that there's absolutely no reason to. Take a look. Counter target instant or aura spell that targets a permanent you control. If only this said just counter target instant or aura and stopped there. But since it can only counter something that is targeting your permanents, there's just no need for it. Compare it to Ranger's Guile, which is the exact same mana cost. By giving your creatures hexproof, you'll effectively be stopping any spells of your opponents which target your creature, instant, aura, or otherwise. Also, the +1/+1 only serves to make Ranger's Guile strictly better than Avoid Fate. Well, there's probably a situation or two where the hard counter would be superior to Guile. They are few and far between, and it's no surprise Avoid Fate sees no play whatsoever in Modern. Number 4 is Rebuff the Wicked, and it has more or less the same issue as Avoid Fate. It counters target spell that targets a permanent you control, but you're in white. White is filled with spells that give your creature protection from the color of your choice, essentially fizzling anything your opponents would try and target them with. Compare Rebuff to God's Willing, which not only would essentially stop whatever spell was targeting your creature, but also let you scry. Yeah, there's just no real advantage to this unless you've got permanents that aren't creatures that are getting targeted all the time. But is that really the situation? Rebuff was printed during Planar Chaos, where cards were specifically designed to have abilities that are typically associated with other colors. Unfortunately, this is not going to give you the kind of control that's still in the domain of blue. Is there anything outside of blue that can counter and actually have some usefulness? Number 3 is a pet favorite of mine, Dash Hopes, our modern legal counterspell in black. Again, hailing from the color pie chaos that was Planar Chaos, Dash Hopes lets us counter any spell for 2 black. Unless an opponent wants to pay 5 life. So close, we are so close with this spell. I must admit that I'm a big fan of Dash Hopes, even though its usefulness is still suspect, to say the least. I want to see a way to make this card work. The problem is that any spell of any value lets your opponent just counter your counter by paying life. Where could we find a home for this in Modern? Well, the first thing I think of is actually Vexing Devil. This is a card with a similar effect where opponents can bury your big creature by paying 4 life. When this card was first printed, a lot of people bemoaned that this condition made it no good, but it has firmly found a permanent home in modern mono-red decks because 4 life for 1 red is still way worth it. What about Dash Hopes? Can this find its way into a Rakdos modern burn deck? If all this card said was 2 black and opponent loses 5 life, would that be something we'd play? And isn't that the effect we're most likely to see here? I don't know. The 2 black casting cost is going to make this tough for a black-red deck, but I still hold out hope this might yet prove itself somehow. Hold out hope. Dash Hopes. Get it? Ugh. Let's see cards that actually will see some play. Number 2 is Guttural Response, which is on the rise as a sideboard staple for a lot of decks. It costs 1 hybrid mana of either green or red, and it counters target blue instant. This card is actually great secret sideboard tech whenever blue is out of control at your local meta. Get it? The best blue spells worth casting are instants anyway, and Guttural Response lets us counter them in either red or green. Perfect hate against those pesky blue control players. Strangely, this wasn't even a Planar Chaos card, but rather from the twisted and dark world of Shadow Moor. The card is currently only about $1.25 each, so a playset might be a wise investment should this ever go from a maybe sideboard option to a must-have. And yes, this spell is taught to us by Wart, the biggest auntie of the goblins. How humiliating for a blue player to be countered by goblin magic. Ha! Alright, what do I feel is the #1 counterspell not in blue? Mana Tithe. 1 white, instant, counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. I honestly don't see why this card doesn't see a lot more play in Modern. It is a Planar Chaos functional reprint in white of Force Spike. Force Spike is a classic control card that sees play in a lot of different formats, from Legacy to Pauper, but Force Spike is not Modern legal. However, Mana Tithe is. Yeah, Spell Pierce is the same cost but requires 2, but it only hits non-creature spells and is in blue. Anyway, it isn't even about Force Spike, it's about how cool Mana Tithe is. This is a great way, in my opinion, for maybe mono-white decks like Soul Sisters or black-white tokens, perhaps, or anything in white with no blue whatsoever to get the surprise upper hand. People just never expect to see something like this coming. Heck, I can even see blue-white builds using it, because then blue essentially has access to Force Spike. Best of all, the card costs only 25 cents, a quarter. Can you believe it? I just love this card. Those who seek to upset the balance must be taxed for such ambitions. It's even in flavor for white in its own twisted way. I hope this video has been of some help to you. And remember, whether buying accessories or boosters, you're not going down to Walmart or Target for Friday Night Magic or game day. So when you spend your cash, try and spend it where you spend time playing Magic. And that's at your local game store whenever possible. You are supporting your Magic community.